I told them that I was in love with somebody else. And they asked me who it was. They asked me if he was Pakistani. I said no. They asked me if he was Muslim. I said no. And that's when my mom lost it.
What's up, YouTube? Love Runs Deep is back in the building once again, and it is story time.
Again.
So we are here with part 3, and it's a part that everyone wants to know.
So give this video a thumbs up right now if you're finally eager to hear what my family had to say
when they found out about our relationship. So give this video to 50 thumbs ups, and I want to have 30 comments. So go ahead and comment 2 heart emojis in the comment section below. Let me know that you are showing us some love and you are still watching this series. By the way, for those of you who are new, there is a part 1 and 2 to our story time. So go ahead and watch that video. I will put a card right here or right here. I'm still trying to figure out which one it is. But go ahead and watch that video first, and I'll get you caught up to speed, and then you can come back and watch this one. Beyond that, for those staying here, now we're going to officially start. So here is where we left off at based on part 2. So DeRay pretty much left St. Louis, packed her bags with her family, and she moved down to Little Rock, Arkansas, while I stayed in St. Louis, and we are officially long distance, probably about 6 hours away from each other as far as driving, and about an hour flight. But the thing that's important to note is that we tried to maintain everything that we were doing before. Long story short, what we tried to do was maintain our communication, which was through Kik, through Snapchat, through this website called Rabbit. Really cool. You know, you can see each other kind of like Skype, and you can also watch TV.
Yeah, you guys would actually find that really beneficial. So you're watching the same movie at the same time.
Yeah.
Unlike Skype, where you have to like pause and make sure you guys are at the same.
It's not laggy or anything.
Yeah.
Really
so
cool.
It was a really, really beneficial app.
So those of you,
we do a lot of projects and stuff too, even though we were long distance. So it would really help us, you know, stay a part of each other's lives on a daily basis because we could see what we were doing. You know, whether it was my schoolwork, his actual work, either way.
So for those of you who wanted to know what that website's called, I want to link it down below. So check it out. It's a great resource. It is free. It saved us, I believe. That thing was a blessing.
Yeah, it was.
But beyond that, we would see each other occasionally, maybe 2 to 3 times per year. And that would be me saving up probably a couple of grand, going down to Little Rock for about a week. And we would do the same thing. She would kind of schedule her schoolwork to align with having that week free. And we would just go out in the daytime and just do fun stuff.
Like zip lining, rock climbing, you know, any activity that we could find in Arkansas, we took advantage of. And so we would plan events months ahead of time. And so when he would come down, those are the things that we would do. And it would kind of give us a snippet of how our life would be if we had the freedom to be together. You know, all the activities we like to do, just like carefree and fun.
That was the most freedom we ever had together. I mean, I had a car. She had the ability to actually leave. She had a cell phone. Sorry about that. But it was really amazing. But the thing that sucked was that once I went back to St. Louis and she was still in Arkansas, it became worse and worse each time as far as how much more we missed one another. Like, it's like getting a sample and then they say, no, you can't buy the real thing. You gotta just wait for the next sample. Like, it literally sucked. So every time I went to see her, I just hated the day I left. And then the long distance, we felt the strain so much more prevalent there. Like, it was unbearable to a certain point. It was like, man, we gotta do something about this.
Yeah. And then with me, like, there's a lot of pressure from my family. You know, there's a lot going on in my personal life as well, as far as like my home situation went, and then on top of school, and then on top of me missing him, it just adds up. You know, it becomes really frustrating. You get tired of lying because I don't like to lie, right? I didn't feel like I should, you know, but I still had to because I knew that would be the only way that I would have made it this far. And it was really unfortunate. And I love my family. Like, you guys have no idea. They have provided for me and my sister and all of our siblings. They do whatever it takes to make sure that we're taken care of. You know, every family has their ups and downs, right? But in the end, we always stick together, and we are a family at the end of the day. And but there's just some things as far as perspective goes, is that where mine just did not align with my family's, right? As far as my future goals, who I wanted to be with. And I knew that. right? Only it was like a one-way street type of thing. I knew everything that was going on in my head, but I had to do like pretend, when I was at home, that I was just happy. And I was happy. I'm not gonna say like I was always miserable, but I mean I was happy, but I had a double life essentially, you know what I mean? And that's hard to hide every single day. It becomes a chore. You have to double think about everything. It's so hard.
No one wants to have a relationship that's based off of a lie anyway. Like that alone really,
and then
it sucks.
And that too, this beautiful of a relationship. There's nothing wrong with this relationship in my opinion. You know what I mean? So that's what makes it even more frustrating, right? I had to hide something that I didn't want to hide, just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came to a point where I got so frustrated, where I was ready to just stop everything and leave.
Yeah, we were on the phone actually talking about her just coming back to St. Louis and then dealing with the consequences there. But
yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on in my personal house too that wasn't helping my decision. Which I'm not, that's a personal thing. I can't get into that, but there was just a lot of tension going on, and so my idea was to just leave. And as soon as I had the idea that I'm going to leave, not even
a day later, it seems like.
Not even a day later, it seems like, my father passed away. It was out of nowhere.
It was crazy.
It was the most random thing that happened to our family. I'm literally at home like every other day, and next thing you know, like a phone call comes. It's weird, when the phone call came, I felt really weird about the phone call. I was like, I don't know. When you get a weird feeling in your gut? And then I just picked it up. My uncle picked it up, and he was on the phone, and next thing you know, he's like screaming, like, what do you mean? Like, are you serious? It was my mom and my aunt on the phone, and they had told my uncle that my dad passed away from a heart attack. And it's like that thing where you hear it, but it's like it didn't happen in front of me, right? So it was hard for me to believe. It's like your whole world is just completely confused at that point. I had no idea what to think. I'm like, is this real? Is this not real? It just felt so dramatic.
It's unreal when that kind of stuff happens. And I mean, I know from experience because my own father passed away probably about 2 years before this happened. So,
which is also crazy.
It is
how both of our fathers are no longer living.
Yes.
Which is highly unfortunate. But
complete shock overall.
Yeah. And my mother and my aunt were crying nonstop for 6 hours before they got the courage to call my uncle. They had known 6 hours prior to that phone call that my father is no longer living. And even to me at that moment, it was unreal. Long story short, I can go into a lot of detail about that because it's very personal to me, but I don't want to make the video too long. Basically, at that point, my father passed away, and I felt like I really needed to step up my game. My dad was the main bread maker of the family. He was the one who provided for everyone. And now my mother was in that position. And so we actually did a beautiful thing where our family, through this huge tragedy, actually came together. We all worked as a team. We figured out a way to get my brothers to school, make sure I still balance my schoolwork and my job. My sister still gets to where she needs to go. My mom and my aunt still get to do their work. Like, it was a lot of really healthy, good coordination. And we were really trying to rebuild our family, from the huge tragedy that happened. And we were very successful for the most part. And for about a year this went on.
So we pretty much put our plan on hold so she could, be there for her family, which makes sense.
Right.
So.
But it made me it changed my perspective on a lot of things, to be honest. Because at first, before my father passed away, I was hopeful. I wanted to be, closer to Leonard so we can have this freedom. And now all of a sudden, I feel a huge moral obligation to make my mom and my aunt and my whole family happy, right? To do what they deem to be the right thing for my future. And I knew the closer I got to graduating college, the closer that they would get to talking about my marriage, which did eventually happen. They found a guy for me, a very, very nice guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with this guy. He was a very, very nice person. I actually didn't even get the chance to meet him in person. But basically, they wanted me to be with this person. They knew him very well. They knew of his family. And it seemed like the ideal thing, right? It seemed he had a good job, good career. You know, he was settled. He was getting his own home. He had a really nice car. It was just... came from a good family. It just seemed like the perfect situation. Our marriage would be in Pakistan. You know, my family would finally get to go back to Pakistan for this great occasion. They would meet all their relatives, and it would be just a really good, fun time where two families would join together, and my mom finally got to meet her family again because she hasn't seen them in such a long time either. It just seemed like the perfect, ideal situation.
So when DeRay told me that too, by the way, because she called me up immediately once she knew that they were trying to get her to marry this one guy, I panicked. I didn't know what to do. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, my family they might be right the entire time. Like, this is going to be bad because she's going to just up and leave me. Like, what other choice does she have at that point beyond just running away? So it was really hard to know what to do, and I understood both sides at that point, even though I would have probably been upset, like crazy upset, but I definitely was trying to reason and just be supportive towards what she had to do and what decision she was going to make. But she did tell me that she wanted to stay with me, so I didn't feel like, oh my God, it's over, but it definitely put some stress on me it definitely put stress on me because I knew that her family was pressuring the hell out of her. She would tell me every day that they would mention this guy. They would even offer to like fly her down to where he lived to stay with him so she could get a feel for the guy. And I just knew that they were serious because this isn't the first time that someone has proposed to DeRay, or at least her family, but usually the first couple of times it happened, the family rejected it. Like, the family rejected the guy.
Because I just wasn't in that place in my life where they felt the need, especially my mom. You know, my mom was very, very adamant on me completing my education, you know, and having my own independence. Like, that's one thing I love about my mother that she really wanted for me.
Yeah.
But
this time, the family actually said, yeah, we're going to actually go through with marrying DeRay off. So I panicked that time.
Yeah, this time... because I was graduating, there's nothing else I needed to do. They seemed like the guy was perfect.
She had no excuses to not go and do what they said.
Pretty much. I had nothing that I could say, right? If I wanted to say, oh, I want to study a little bit longer. I tried every excuse in the book to prolong this marriage, but they just weren't having it. And eventually... they started getting suspicious, right? Why are you denying us? What is wrong with this guy? You know, it seems perfect. My aunt knew the guy really well, so she knew, because she knew me. She raised me, you know. She had a huge part in raising me, and she actually raised the guy as well at a certain point in time. That's how she knows him really well and me really well, so she assumed that, in her opinion, it would be the perfect match. And so she constantly asked me, you know, what is going on? And I was like, oh my God. At this point, I literally started panicking. I had no idea what to do. I would cry uncontrollably almost every single night. I would try to talk to my sister, Sarish. Like, I literally had no idea what I was going to do in my life. And so I was at college one day, and I looked at the counselor's building, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I have no other choice. What do I have to lose? I'm walking into this counselor's office and seeing how they can help me, right? Because I need to talk about something to someone that I don't know, because this is just driving me crazy. Someone who's unbiased, right? Because I can talk to him, I can talk to my sister, I can talk to my family, but everybody has their own kind of bias in some way or the other, right? So I was like, let me talk to a stranger and see what their opinion is. An educated stranger whose degree is meant to help people like me going through crazy crap.
Not to give you advice, but to coach you.
But to coach me through it and help me find my own way to the solution, right? So I get my appointment. I'm walking to towards the first session, and even before I even walked through the door, I'm like, this is a horrible idea. This person's never going to understand me. They're probably American. They have no idea where I'm coming from. They're not going to understand at all. And then as soon as I'm about to like turn around, the door opens, and they call my name, and I'm like, well, here we go. And so I sit there, and this counselor, I don't even know if I can mention her name or not, but I'm gonna call her Miss T. Miss T changed my life. She was so helpful to me. She like I said, she didn't tell me what to do, but she would sit there. She listened to my entire story. She would just sit and let me talk. And I just gave her everything. Like everything that was on my mind, my background, where I was coming from, all the different perspectives I had. The first 2 sessions was basically just that, her getting to know me, right? Who I am, where I'm coming from, my background, yada, yada, yada.
And how long are these sections too? Or these sessions, I mean? These
sessions were about 2 hours?
2 hours? Okay.
2 hours. And this is 6 weeks prior to me graduating college, right? So the bomb's ticking. Because as soon as I graduate, they were trying to ship me off to go meet this guy and then hitch everything together and whatnot. So first 2 sessions, that's basically what happened. It only happens once a week. So the first session happened where I spilled everything. And then, she kind of consoled me and talked to me, and I was like, okay. It felt nice to relieve all of that stress and tell it to someone else, and then she gave me a journal to keep kind of jotting anytime I have something come up or I'm panicking, then to just write it down so we can talk about it the next time. So then I came the next time. And then by the 3rd section, right, I was really hopeful. She was talking me through everything. She was giving me all perspectives. And I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can stand up. I can fight. And that would be great. And I was like, you know what? You're awesome. Next week I'm going to come back. We're going to have a game plan. Next week I will come back. I can't do this. I don't know what you're talking about. This is horrible. Like, you can expect me to do this. How can I? Basically, it was just a disaster. Like, 1 week I'd be hopeful. The next week I would be in complete shambles. I'd have no idea what I was doing.
It's a roller coaster.
Right? It was a roller coaster, basically. And she would just go along with it with me. She wouldn't tell me I was wrong. She wouldn't tell me I was right. She would just talk to me through it. And what basically happened is that's essentially what she did. She helped me paint a picture of how my life would be. She told me, she's like, DeRay, if you do this marriage, right, you're going to make so many people happy. Your mom is going to be able to go to Pakistan. She's going to be able to meet her family. You're going to join 2 families together. Everyone's probably going to have a blast. You're going to have this huge 3-day-long wedding. It's probably going to be beautiful. And she's like, but think about it this way. Every single person there is going to be happy except for you. You're going to be sitting there broken because you left the person that you truly, truly, truly love for someone you don't know at all. And she's like, they will party and have fun and pack their bags and go home. And then who's stuck in that marriage for the rest of their life? You are. And she's like, if you're okay with that, and you can live your life honestly without any regrets, and you're okay with doing that and making that sacrifice, do it. But if you're not, you will resent your family for the rest of your life. That's what she told me. And she is right. If I would have done that, I would have thought that I'm initially doing it for my family, when in turn, over time, I would have resented my family because of the situation. I would have felt like they put me in because I did it for them. Which is why you should never live life for anybody else but yourself, right? It may sound selfish, and it took me a long time to get to this understanding. Like, believe me, it wasn't just this counselor that changed my mind. There was a lot more to it, which I actually am going to do a separate video.
Only if you get 50 thumbs up, though. Only if you get 50 thumbs up likes.
Right. With all my secret books that I read, all the videos that I watched, and all the people that coached me through fixing my mindset of being a victim of life, and then instead becoming in charge of my life, right? And going for what I want. Still with faith, right? Still keeping God in mind, still keeping family in mind, but in a much more self-directed manner. So that will be in a separate video because I feel like that's very important. So basically, that's what it came down to. I was like, you know what? You're right. And then I just knew what I needed to do. And one day when my aunt was asking me, I was at home, and she was like, why? What is wrong, Dre? There's something going on that you just keep denying this marriage. And I saw that as my opportunity, and I told the truth. I told them that I was in love with somebody else, and they asked me who it was. They asked me if he was Pakistani. I said no. They asked me if he was Muslim. I said no. And that's when my mom lost it. My mom did not take it very well at all. It's like all of her expectations and dreams of me just came crashing down. I became, instead of me being her golden child that was going to basically justify all her years of sacrifice by getting married to this one individual, I became a disgrace to her. I became someone that she wished she never gave birth to. I became unworthy. She hates me. No, God. Sorry. It did not go well, you guys. A lot of things were said that day. A lot of which, when I look back now, I know that she may have not meant. But it still hurt because it was said by my mom. Sorry, I had to take a break quick. Basically what happened, my mom did accept the relationship. Thank you.
Okay.
My mom did accept the relationship at all. She told me to immediately cut it off, that this is not something that I can do. It was bad, you guys. It was very ugly. It was very ugly. I'm not going to go into the details of it out of respect for my family, but it was not good. Nobody was harmed or anything, right? But it was more so this emotional toll that is undescribable. Like when your mom tells you that she wished she never gave birth to you.
I mean, I was pretty much scared for DeRay. I didn't know how her family would react because she would always...
You didn't even know I told them at that point.
No, she would always tell me years before that, if my family ever found out, they'll kill me, they'll take me to Pakistan. And, DeRay just says stuff like that.
I didn't say they would kill me. I said they would take me to Pakistan.
She would like my parents will kill me, that kind of thing.
Right, but it wasn't an exaggerated way.
She exaggerates a lot sometimes.
Yeah.
But, for me looking on the outside, me from the outside looking in, I didn't know what would happen. I'm thinking worst case scenario. My family, when I told them that DeRay told her family, my family was thinking worst case scenario as well. We didn't know what to think, really.
It just happened. I just literally I was there one day and I just told the truth.
And it wasn't like it was the ideal time to tell them. We didn't know when the ideal time would be.
There is no ideal time, you guys.
And I
kept waiting all these years for the right time, and the right time just doesn't come. You make it happen. And basically what happened is my mom, this was like 4 days before I graduated college too, by the way. So at this point, my mom was super mad, frustrated, didn't want anything to do with me, told me to cut it off, otherwise she wants nothing to do with me. She didn't kick me out or disown me or anything, right? But she just told me that this cannot happen. Like, flat out, it cannot happen. And at this point I knew I'm not going to let him go, right? And she said some things about him without even knowing him, right? Like, she's making assumptions about who he is as a person before even knowing who he is. And that was unacceptable to me. I didn't feel like that was fair. And so, long story short, basically...
They did not see eye to eye at all.
No. And I knew, like, one day she would be angry, the next day she would come practically really, really asking me to stop and don't do it, right? From a very motherly love type of concern to just not go through with this and just stop. And it was at that point where I knew, like, I cannot be in this home anymore because this is not going to be healthy for me, and it's not going to be healthy for my family. I'm not going to stop loving him. I'm not going to let him go, and they're not going to let me do it. And
I was still really concerned about her well-being because, like I said, we just never know, especially in today's age. You hear all these things on the media and social networks and everything. Like,
basically, he just came down.
I came down to her graduation to support her because I could, and I was so excited to see her walk across that stage and get her diploma that she worked so hard for.
Which you guys have seen a picture of. That was actually one of the best days of my life, despite all the chaos going on. That was one of the most memorable days of my life because everybody who was there that day on my graduation, they knew me for who I am. They loved me for who I was, unapologetically. They didn't care, right, about the decisions that I made. They just loved me for me, you know? And I'm not saying that it was wrong for my mom to do that because every parent has expectations of their children. But it's just like Haley was there, a couple of mentors that I had were there, really, really close friends and who family. I almost consider family were there, and of course my siblings, my family was there too. And that was just a day where I felt so loved and supported, and having him there was just so meaningful to me because that was the first time that we were able to be a part of a huge event in each other's lives. Yeah. And I graduated on Friday, and on Sunday I decided to pack my bags and leave.
So I went from flying down to Little Rock to actually taking her car and driving back up to St. Louis together.
And I drove the whole 6 hours. I was on such an adrenaline rush. I had just decided, you guys, that in order for me to make anything of myself in life, and in order to live the life that I needed to get away. Otherwise, I was going to get sucked into this whirlpool of emotions, and I would end up making emotions not for myself but for other people. And I've seen people do that. I've seen my father do that. I've seen my father make decisions in his life, not because he wanted to, but because of the pressure of other people wanting him to. And it did not go well. And he's not the only example that I've seen in my life. I've seen many other people, especially in the basic community, make decisions not because they want to, but because of what other people view it as and what other people are going to judge them for. And I was just beyond that thinking at that point. And even at this point, I don't care about what other people think of how I live my life. I live my life to be the best version of a human being that I can, right? To live full of love, respect for others, respect for each other.
Peace,
right? And just adventure, right? Like, I feel like society has stripped us humans from being curious and adventurous when that is in our very, very nature. You know, they want us to all be like similar, be the same. You know, everybody has to have their ducks in a row. Everyone has to follow the same exact timeline. You gotta fit within
this box.
And I thought I was supposed to fit in that box too. In fact, I judged myself for a long time for not being able to fit in that box. I used to think there was something wrong with me because I didn't fit in that box. And now I know that that's not the case, right? We're all allowed to be different, and we should love each other despite our differences. And here we are now.
It's been about a year later since DeRay actually made that move back to St. Louis. And
my mother actually did not speak to me that entire year. Anytime I would call her, text her, she would not answer, she would not respond. It was very hard.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be days where DeRay would just sit there and bust out crying, and I'm thinking, what happened, you know? And I look at her phone, and there's this paragraph, actually, not even a paragraph, probably about a page worth of text from her mom that just shattered DeRay, and it was just, you know, not even attacking her decision, but more like DeRay's character, which just wasn't true. I read the messages, and it just You know, you could tell that her mom was very hurt by the decision that DeRay made, and it made me feel bad as well. I mean, the last thing I ever wanted to do was to break up DeRay's family. I just never thought that the reactions would be this intense. So,
and he wanted to console my family, right? He didn't want me to just pick up and leave. He was all for coming, talking to them, rectifying the situation as much as possible. I just knew that it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. I know my family. I know the way that they think. They don't even want to see him at this point. And as of right now, I'm struggling in repairing my relationship with my own mother. We recently, in June, went to Arkansas. And we made a video. We vlogged a couple of moments. And I actually did go see my mother for the first time after almost an entire year. And I'll talk about that in that video as to what happened. But basically, beyond that previous trip just happened, there was no communication between us whatsoever. And one thing that you guys have to learn is that some decisions will be hard to make, right? And sometimes you do disappoint your family, but that doesn't mean you don't love them and that you don't care about them. You just have to make decisions sometimes for yourself. And as long as there's an effort made to rectify the situation and to find some kind of compromise or common ground, which I'm trying to do, it's easier said than done. There's no book, right, where you can follow and like, this is how you do it, this is how it's done. But
yeah. And this is why we say that everyone's journey is different. We can't give you advice about what to do, because to a certain point, we're still traveling along the same journey that you might be traveling, and we may be a step or two further than you, but who's to say that we're doing this the perfect, flawless way?
Yeah, one of you guys might go through this situation a lot smoother, right? Your parents might be a little bit more open-minded. Like, that's why we don't feel comfortable giving one-on-one advice to anybody, and why we wanted you guys to see what we did, right? So you can kind of think about what you're going to do.
Just to give you options and let you know that, okay, this is what we've done, and here are the consequences that followed. Some are positive, some are negative. But that's with any decision you ever make in life, in general.
Right. And I don't regret the decision that I made till this day. I am very, very happy. My sister will occasionally always message me and talk about how healthy and happy I look, and then she always tells Leonard that he's doing a good job, and then if it changes that she'll kill him. But that's Sarah for you. But I am happy. Besides me being very stressed about my broken relationship with my mother and trying to help my family out, I also have an understanding that this is a growth process, right? We only grow sometimes through pain. And my hope is that basically I did the worst thing possible to my mom, right? That she probably feared the most in her life. And her fear of what people think. So I probably can't do anything much worse than this. I mean, that's in my character, to keep that in mind. But that would hurt her any more or less. So I feel like if she can grow through this pain and I can meet her halfway and we come to a compromise, then we can slowly rebuild our relationship as a mother and daughter, and she can see me for who she raised me to be, and not so much so the decisions that I made. For example, who I chose to spend the rest of my life with. And my hope in the future is that she will learn to love him, because he's a very lovable human being. And he's a very, very, very good man. And he deserves for her to see that too. And so my goal is to actively repair my relationship with my mother in order for her to accept us in the future. And then I don't know as far as like the steps exactly in detail what we're going to do for that to happen, but we'll keep you guys in the loop.
Yeah, every day we just do our best. And that's all we can expect from one another or in general.
And we're just trying to build ourselves financially. You know, we mentioned a lot before, we do have full-time jobs, which is why, you know, we're trying to keep consistent videos, but it's not as easy.
But we will be consistently uploading to this channel, whether it be on a weekly basis or maybe a couple, 3 times a month, something like that. We definitely love engaging with you all, and we do different type of videos as well, but this is just something that a lot of people have reached out to us and wanted us to explain and to just give our insights for what happened.
Yeah. And so there we are at this point.
Yeah.
We do have our own apartment now, and we are living together, and we're taking each day one step at a time.
But of course, if you have any questions, if you, of course, resonate with the story, please leave 2 heart emojis in the comment section below. We love to hear what you all thought about it. Again, positive zone only, so keep that in mind. But for the most part, we know that everyone here that watches the videos, for the most part, we have had an overwhelming positive response to our story, and we are very thankful, and we love you all for supporting us in our decision, and also just hearing about you all is really cool to us. I mean, we get inspired by some of the things that we see as well.
That you guys are doing,
yeah.
that your journey. And anytime we see someone who's messaging us who's going through the same thing, please don't lose hope, right? Keep fighting for your love, because it is worth it, I promise.
And with that being said, we're going to close out today's video, but stay tuned for the next one, and we will be back with more videos. All right, take care. Bye.